9 people who were supposed to be coaching young children football, they are facing charges that they ran a gambling ring off of those very games.
In November 2012, 9 coaches were arrested in Florida for their involvement in a secret gambling ring centered around a youth football league. Before the popularity of betting apps for pro sports, youth football coaches and the local dope boys were placing bets on young players aged 5 to 14. These youngins were even bribed with $20 up to $100 if they scored a touchdown or made a stop on defense by a random guy on the sideline.
It was a $100 bill. He was like, running back, I'm gonna give you this here. You running back, I'm gonna run down that gear to you. And as soon as they kicked it off, I ran it back for 99 yards. In the back of the end zone, he ran back. I ran by the coolers, he gave it to me. He gave me a $100 bill. Put this in your thigh pad, and I remember that.
Not knowing that touchdown or stop could potentially win that random stranger up to $20,000.
Gave me all kind of cash and stuff, you know. It was good at the time, but now I know it's a bad thing to do.
Crazy thing is, this happened right in front of police officers, but they had no idea at the time. The wagers ranged from $20,000 up to $100,000 for the league's championship. But how were these coaches getting away with this? How was the betting ring organized? Why did it take 18 months of investigation? And did the kids even profit off any of these big pot earnings? Let's figure out all this mess together.
You're charged with bookmaking, a first offense, and keeping a house for gambling.
The secret gambling ring took place in South Florida around the FYFL, known as the Florida Youth Football League, which is a non-profit organization that promotes youth football and cheer programs for athletes in several counties in Florida. With approximately 5,000 youth athletes ranging from age 5 to 14 years old, there are about 22 clubs associated with the league. On their website, it says their mission is to enable student athletes to benefit from participation in team sports and activities in a structured environment. Though this active participation, it teaches fundamental values, skills, and knowledge that student athletes will use throughout their lives. But little did these young innocent kids know that their performance could potentially get someone life-changing money.
Some of the bets we're talking about here, they had winnings of up to $100,000.
$10 till you hear thousands of dollars, 10,000, 20,000. You may hear on a football game.
With the 10-week schedule, bets were placed on the outcomes of these games, with wagers reaching staggering amounts of up to $100,000 for championship matches. The Broward Sheriff's Office put together an investigation called Operation Dirty Play, promoted by Outside the Lines, that exposed the bettings during these games. The alleged ringleader was Brandon Bivens, known as Coach B, who was the president of the Fort Lauderdale Hurricanes youth football team. Bivens ran 2 fake storefronts for the gambling operation.
And they bet on everything: the NFL, college sports, and youth football games.
One, Red Carpet Cuts, which was a barbershop that had a secret room behind what appeared to be a closet door with a narrow hallway leading to a gambling room with tinted windows. Bettors could place wagers on professional, college, and youth games through these tinted windows based on different bet amounts, where undercover officers placed bets during the investigation. But how did the betting process actually work? Well, coaches from the youth league would meet before games and set point spreads on the upcoming matches. Bettors would then get computer-generated printouts listing the games, betting options, and point spreads when arriving to the gambling fronts.
But it was just a front, because in the back room was basically a full gambling house with betting windows.
They would line up at the tinted windows based on how much they wanted to bet, with the different windows for different bet amounts. And when the light turned green above the window, the next bettor would step up, provide their cash, and receive a betting receipt after the bet was entered into the computer. During the long investigation, there were a few confidential informants and undercover officers placing bets on these games. One informant said $20,000 was bet on a rivalry game between the Northwest Broward Raiders and the Fort Lauderdale Hurricanes.
And Jen, we are talking big money here. $20,000 for a rivalry game, up to $100,000 for a championship game.
While the coaches organized the wagers, authorities stated that there was no evidence the games were rigged or that the coaches encouraged players to perform in certain ways to influence the outcome. However, the entire operation exploited the young players for illegal gambling profits, and the coaches and the neighborhood doughboys will openly exchange money while watching the games, even in the presence of the boys.
I really have a problem with that, seeing this now with a police officer standing right there and seeing this type of activity going on right here. Something needs to be done.
We all know men lie, women lie, but the eye in the sky doesn't. While attending a game, investigators caught a coach from the league in 4K exchanging money, obviously betting on the game.
Have you ever gambled on a game?
Never gambled on the game.
Osbert Smalls, who was a coach of the Pompano Cowboys at the time, was seen betting during the game. And when asked about it during the interview, he had a surprised look on his face and was at a loss for words.
It's like you there. What are you doing?
I wasn't gambling.
Just coming up with anything on the spot to make himself seem innocent.
Well, you're taking money from somebody. What are you doing? If you weren't gambling, what are you doing taking money from that guy?
I was just holding the money for an individual. Sometimes people make mistakes, I guess. And sometimes you don't want to get too much involved with the police. I'm not the enforcer to the league. Doing the telling, I can't do it.
If one of your kids who you coach and you mentor asked you, what were you doing here? What would you say?
I said, I made a mistake.
We all know there is no such thing as holding someone else's money for them. That only happened when we were kids, and our parents would say, let them hold our Christmas money that we just got. Then when we asked for it back, they said it went to that McDonald's that we ate weeks ago. Like, Mom, McDonald's did not cost $215. But during this time in South Florida, some parents didn't have to wait until Christmas to get money from their kids. These kids were bribed with money and rewards to change or go to certain teams.
Those parents may have taken money from gamblers who are recruiting their sons in an attempt to stack the teams on which the gamblers bet. The boy's mother told him another team offered her $3,500 for her son.
Parents selling kids to the highest bidder, ages 5 to 15.
Some say this is a harmless act, so what's the big problem with betting on a few kid games? Let people do what they want to do with their money. The only problem with that though is where illegal money is, normally violence tends to follow. Teams in these leagues were often drawn from the projects, low-income hoods, where football fields were next to housing projects and drive-by shootings can break out just blocks away. Around this time, 2011-2012, record shows that police responded to more than 5,000 incidents within a quarter-mile radius of Fort Lauderdale's 2 city football fields, hundreds of which were violent crimes. They were even called to the game sometimes. All it took was for someone not trying to pay up their debt and all hell broke loose.
Coaches on the field pushing, shoving, and punching.
Adults losing their cool and one woman losing her hair.
Both teams rushed the field, turning this game into an all-out brawl.
One year, a man was even robbed for $10,000, a wager that he just won, but word got around and he was robbed before he could even leave the stadium.
And allegedly had $10,000 in cash stolen from him. But he was the big winner in a football pool. People in the area found out that he was the big winner, and as he left the field, he was robbed.
And this was no type of environment for kids that was out playing football, just trying to have fun early Saturday morning and late afternoon. The law worried that betting on games could lead to violence and other crimes. So this big gambling bust happened right after a football coach punched a referee in the face during a game. So after months of surveillance, digging through trash cans, and raiding those 2 gambling storefronts, they arrested Coach B, Brandon Bivens, charging him with felony bookmaking and keeping a gambling house. Just his charges alone, he was looking up to 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. And shortly after cracking down, getting the 8 other coaches that were involved.
My view on gambling and youth football. Yes. I don't see it as being no problem.
You're involved in betting in youth football.
Betting in youth?
What do you expect to tell the kids tonight when they show up for practice?
A coach from the Deerfield Beach Packer Rattlers, Lauderhill Lions, 4 coaches from the Fort Lauderdale Hurricanes, and 2 from the Northwest Broward Raiders. 4 out of the 9 were held on $100,000 bonds, while the other 4 were held on bonds ranging from $15,000 to $20,000. Make you think them 4 told or something. While 1 man was held without bond for violating probation. They all faced felony bookmaking charges for their roles and participation in the betting. They even faced bans from coaching. When the investigation went public, it sent shockwaves through the community, sparking outrage and calls for justice. Parents, coaches, and concerned citizens alike expressed their anger at the exploitation of children for personal gain.
This is my league. Anything happens in this league, it comes to the top.
Is unacceptable and should not be in a crowd where you have young kids participating in a sport.
Something needs to be done.
Al Harris, who played cornerback in the NFL for the Packers, who also played in this league, was just surprised that this was going on.
Point spread for Little League football, but the point spread and all of this, and I was like, what?
When he was coming up in this league in the late 80s and 90s, he said it was more of a family-friendly crowd. Moms, dads, grandparents, aunts, and uncles who attended the games. Now it was high school coaches looking for recruits and guys from the block looking for a quick buck. When the arrests were made, it scared a lot of people that were attending the games, and the betting slowed down a ton, at least in the public eye. A lead detective on the case noted that there were many more coaches and others involved in the gambling, and he hoped that the arrests sent a message that their crimes wouldn't go unnoticed. And if I didn't say already, the arrest took place during the middle of the 2012 season. And after those 9 coaches were arrested, Detective Solomon Barnes had a message for the dozen of young players who showed up to practice that next week, trying to make sense of what happened to their coaches. He told them, continue playing the game that you love, trust your teammates, all the disciplinary things that are taught in football, but don't go on the other side of the law, he said. Stay on the course, follow your heart, follow your minds. Kids know right from wrong. And this is a great example of what the wrong thing will get you.
Why you want me so much money and this and that? Oh, your boy, you bought me a house, you bought me a truck. It made me feel good, but at the same time, I don't see nothing out of it. In the long run, I ain't never get none. Only thing I got was a couple $1,000, you know what I'm saying? Down the drain, going down the drain again tomorrow. Money like paper, it blows.